Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. My name is James Lee, and this is a 5149 Thinking Out Loud session where I give my thoughts about politics, business, and some other things. So today, the topic of discussion is the sad passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. First off, before I go off and politicize the situation, I apologize in advance for doing that. I just want to say that I admired her a lot, and she was extremely courageous, really made a difference in this world, so I'm sad that she's not here with us anymore, but super appreciative of all her accomplishments as a lawyer, a Supreme Court justice, and in her family life as well. With that being said, I've had a few days to reflect on the passing of RBG and what comes next. And I'm going to try to approach this topic with a bit of nuance, but my overall takeaway, the big thing that's been revealed to me based on everything I'm saying is that A, for the Republicans, it's all about their ability to exercise power, and B, for the Democrats, it's all about theatrics. Nobody actually cares about humanity or the American people. I'm going to try to explain what I mean through a quote from Chris Rock. He said this in his New York Times interview last week. He said, "Put it this way, Republicans tell outright lies. Democrats leave out key pieces of truth that would lead to a more nuanced argument. In a sense, it's all fake news." So let's start with the Republican Party. So Mitch McConnell, almost immediately after the announcement of RBG's death, said that Trump will nominate a justice and the Senate will vote on him or her prior to the election. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time here because I'm going to let cable news and late night TV dismantle their shameless hypocrisy. I mean, the rule they set for themselves in 2016, the rule that didn't even exist before that, and they just made up about not confirming a Supreme Court justice in an election year, somehow now doesn't apply in 2020. I mean, people like Mitch, Lindsey Graham, they have no morals, they have no integrity, no goal or purpose other than winning and exercising power. I think that point is pretty cut and dry. Like Chris Rock said, Republicans, they're just overtly full of BS. Now, the Democrats, who I'm actually focusing on for this piece, they aren't a better bunch. They think they're more righteous or respectable compared with the Republicans, but in my eyes, they're not better people at all. I'll caveat this by saying that I believe that if the Democrats were given a chance, they would nominate a justice to the Supreme Court who would be more likely to protect civil rights and other things like a woman's right to choose as opposed to a Republican-nominated justice. But do I think they care enough about these rights to not use it as a calculated electoral and fundraising crutch? Absolutely not. And I'm bringing receipts. Let's take a look at a Huffington Post article titled, "Democrats Regret Not Fighting Harder for Obama's Supreme Court Pick." Reflecting back to the Republicans blocking the confirmation of Obama's Supreme Court pick, Merrick Garland, Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii said, "We should have shut down the Senate. We made a calculation that we were going to win the 2016 presidential election and confirm a nominee, and it didn't work out." Listen to what he's saying there, because I think it's pretty revealing, which is that they made a calculation not to fight for Garland because they thought it would benefit them electorally. I know you did not say this, but they essentially used the issue of the Supreme Court to force people to support Hillary. Think about it this way. If the Democrats had gotten the Republicans to confirm Garland, that's one less reason, and a pretty big reason, for many to vote for Hillary, a deeply flawed candidate who is not only despised by the average Republican voter, but also viewed very unfavorably by the more progressive Democratic voters. The Democratic leadership was like, there's no way people would dare vote against Hillary with balance of courts on the line. Well, that didn't work out so good. And they're doing the same thing in 2020. The Supreme Court is on the ballot, and the outcome will impact everything from healthcare to civil rights, affecting generations to come. Vote. Our future depends on it. And they're going to keep doing this. Stephen Breyer, another left-leaning justice who was nominated first by Clinton in 1994, is now 82 years old. So whatever happens this year in 2024, guess what? Got to go with Biden or maybe Kamala, or else there's going to be another massive erosion of reproductive rights or LGBTQ rights or healthcare. Now, you wouldn't want that on your conscience, would you? The thing is, this strategy holds the American people hostage on both sides because both parties have now been corporatized, which is something I talk a lot about on this channel because it's really at the core of the problems here in America. So they have to use things like cultural issues to drive wedges in the American people to distract them from the fact that our two major parties represent only rich donors and corporations. The average Republican voter knows this as well. I mean, as skillful as Mitch McConnell is in getting Trump's judicial appointees confirmed, he is despised by the people of Kentucky. In fact, a 2018 Morning Consult poll showed that McConnell garnered a rating of 34% approval and 52% disapproval, the lowest of all 100 senators. The only reason he keeps winning is that he also forces his base into these moral conundrums. So no doubt, if the situation was reversed, the Republicans would be doing the exact same thing and using this issue of the courts to galvanize their base. And speaking of galvanization, which leads to my second point, the latest fundraising numbers are in, and based on figures released from Act Blue, small dollar donations have now given $100 million on Act Blue since 8 p.m. Eastern Time Friday. And I'm sure more money is trickling in as we speak. This money is obviously super helpful to not only Biden, but all the down ballot races as well across the country. You could interpret this as people being fired up, but I see this as the Democratic Party exploiting RBG for money, just basically pimping her out, for lack of a better word. They know how much people love Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so this is working out perfectly for them. The party is gouging money from everyday working Americans to fight for an issue that has been artificially manufactured. And perhaps even worse, they're not even putting up much of a fight. Like I pointed out earlier, the Democrats made the conscious decision in 2016 to not fight back. Referring back to that Huffington Post article, Chris Kang, who worked in the Obama White House for 6 years and played a central role in getting his judicial nominees confirmed, said that there's no question the Democrats could have done more to push Garland's nomination through. And today, they still haven't shown any desire to actually fight. Pelosi has already said that she will not leverage a possible government shutdown to avoid a Senate vote on the open court seat. So yeah, in other words, they're going to take $100 million of hard-earned money from people and do nothing. And to me, that's super manipulative and exploitative, but let me know what you think here. And another really important thing that I want to mention here about the judicial system is that all important landmark cases start at the lower court. So in many ways, they're every bit as important as the Supreme Court. So I would expect the Democrats to fight tooth and nail when it comes to blocking Trump's federal judicial appointments, which now comprise of roughly 24% of all federal judges. But no, that is not happening either. In the 116th Congress, which is from 2019 to the present, of Trump's 111 successful nominees, only 26% were confirmed on a party line basis. In contrast, 54 of the 111, which is 49%, so almost 50%, were approved with either moderate, significant, or overwhelming bipartisan support. I mean, discounting dinos like Joe Manchin, Democrats in name only, you still have longtime, high-profile Democratic senators like Maggie Hassan, Dianne Feinstein, Chris Murphy, and Tim Kaine, all voting to confirm a Trump judicial appointee almost 50% of the time. Now, that's not resistance. Something has got to be going on here. Why on earth would they do that if they keep telling us that the issue of the courts is existential? So there's obviously a big difference between rhetoric from the Democratic leaders and reality. So tying this back to the Chris Rock quote I referenced earlier, Democrats leave out key pieces of truth that would lead to a more nuanced argument. There's obviously something fishy in the water. You can't say you care deeply about something and not do anything about it. I mean, I don't know what the answer here is for sure, but the Democrats are definitely leaving out the discussion around the corruptive nature of money in politics. And coming from the business world, there is a fundamental disconnect between corporate interests and the interests of the working class. The fact is, both parties, Republicans and Democrats, have the same corporate donors. So all the Democrats are left with is this social justice posturing as a means to win votes. So I want to wrap up today by asking this question: what should we do? Personally, I don't have any issues with people voting for Biden, or even Trump for that matter, because of the Supreme Court. The composition of the court has huge implications, and that's totally a fine rationale for casting a vote. But what I do want to open up for discussion is the point that the Supreme Court has now become an existential issue because our corrupt leaders made it so. Our elected officials are flawed and that money is a super corrupting influence. So rather than acknowledge how money has affected their ability to govern, both parties have instead chosen to dangle issues like reproductive rights as an electoral strategy. So just know that when you're casting your votes because of an issue like the Supreme Court, it's the party manipulating the environment to make you think that this is an organic issue and that you're voting for something that is existential. So speaking in generality, I do not believe the Democratic establishment to be better people than their Republican counterpart. The Republicans, they're just more transparent about their hypocrisy. The Democrats, they cloak themselves in the legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and strut around pretending to be righteous and principled representatives, but they don't actually fight for any of the rights they talk about. And fundamentally, they're manipulative, they're corrupt, and they definitely won't lose any sleep at night if women end up losing their right to choose. So to tie it all together, in the words of Chris Rock, in a sense, it's all fake news. I'll pause here for today, but yeah, like most important issues, it's kind of complicated, so I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Also, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so to help a little guy like me take on the corporate media. My name is James Lee. I'll be back again next week, and as always, thank you so much for your time.